What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Stimulate here, back with another Legends of Runeterra video for all of you. We just got the reveal for Lee Sin and all of his buddies here, so we're just going to do really quick first impressions video, what I think, kind of just like my gut reaction to what I'm thinking about these cards. After glancing over them really quick, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of skeptical of the power level of all these cards. I think there are some cards that have potential in the future if they release some other type of synergy, but with the current state of the game and what we have available in the card pool, I'm not 100% sure if all of these cards are going to be that good. So let's just do a quick little overview of what we're working with here, and we'll just start with this card here at the bottom, which also happens to be probably the weakest card out of all of the cards revealed, so that's pretty convenient. So it's Scales of the Dragon here. When I'm summoned, create a Dragon's Protection in the hand, and the Dragon's Protection is this 2-mana slow, grant an ally 3 health permanently. Unfortunately, 4/2s in this game, they are not consistently good. PNZ is played a lot, and PNZ has Mystic Shot in pretty much every deck that it's going to play. And that is, unfortunately, this is the 2 health stat line here. This card, once it's put in play, is immediately responded to and just removed from the board there with the Mystic Shot. So I don't foresee this being main decked very often. So yeah, once it's removed, you get this in hand. So you're drawing 1, which is a clear upside, but the one you draw is just gives someone 3 health. And I mean, if this can't be reacted with like a Mystic Shot or like somehow like a couple Vile Feasts, then you get a 3-mana 4/5, which is good, but it's like a 2-card combo, and it's not really getting you anywhere that fast. And there are other better options with like standalone. I'm sure, as everyone's aware right now, standalone is in existence and very strong. So you're most likely facing down something stronger on turn 3 if this is your turn 3 play. Next we have the Concussive Palm and the Tail of the Dragon combo here. So that's probably the most interesting thing about these cards right now that got revealed, is they all seem to be, or at least a few of them seem to be doing some card generation, interesting interaction stuff. So Concussive Palm I'd say is a good card, and then Tail of Dragon's kind of underwhelming. I only say that because they both can be main decked here. So like you could potentially do some interesting stuff where you play 6 copies of this like combination of cards. But Concussive Palm is a fast stun that kind of power creeps the Steel Tempest. Steel Tempest is 3-mana fast stun an attacking enemy, and you get a bump up in the mana cost here, but you get a 3/2 body on top of that, which could potentially be bounced and re-triggering the Concussive Palm value here. So I would say that from an initial reaction, that Tail of the Dragon is not really that powerful, unless there's some sort of extra synergy with like extra recalls and yeah, just upgrading the value of this card through like additional recalls and stuff like that. So Concussive Palm is a pretty good card. We'll definitely be seeing play in Yasuo archetypes, and obviously the Lee Sin archetype, because you want to be playing spells, and yeah, there's other recall synergy here with the card that we're going to be going over next. So definitely be played in like some sort of Lee Sin and Yasuo archetype. I mean, not necessarily both in one deck, but potentially. So this is definitely the most interesting card out of the ones that we've seen so far in this reveal and like what we got released today. The Retreat and Return. I'd say this has pretty much like very, I don't want to say limitless potential, but this has very crazy potential if there's more synergy, abusable cards released with this in the future. Currently, I'd say like the devs were probably looking at something like Greenglade Elder to go with this, with like some sort of Lee Sin early game where you're buffing up all of your stuff that you have in hand, like twice. So you maybe like a turn 3 would be Green Glade Elder, retreat, return, Green Glade Elder, everything's +2/+2. You played 2 spells, so maybe you get like a 4/3 Claws of the Dragon. Or 2, maybe, if like your hand's extra spicy. But the problem with that is that it has the same issue with the Scales of the Dragon, P and Z, and that's even worse because Shadow Isles also has Vile Feast, which immediately ruins that for you. I mean, you get +1/+1, but you don't get any of the follow-up on that. So, but Retreat Return with like Tail of the Dragon potentially is very good. But I mean, it's actually not that good because once this is recalled, it turns into a concussive palm, so you can't actually return this card. So you'd have to return something like Scales of the Dragon, I guess, which if you're returning Scales of the Dragon, it's obviously better than just like straight up playing it, because you get the generated extra health, and you just get a 4/2 on body, and if they react to it, then I mean, you played it for 1 technically. I mean, you technically played it for 3 because you had to, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. And then we have so yeah, like I was saying, this has a ton of potential, depending on what cards they release in the future that meet these conditions that generate like a ridiculous amount of value. Because return is like insane, and it's fleeting, so you have to play it like that turn to get the value. And is a 2 mana recall that you might not actually get to return anything. Is it going to be that great? We'll have to see if the metagame shakes out to a place where the potential downside is you're just recalling something, which might be good enough. Who knows? Especially with Lee Sin leveling him up and stuff. Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike are... you can think about it. I mean, if you just combine them, 3 mana for giving something Challenger and +2/+0. Obviously, leveling up Lee Sin twice, but and playing 2 spells if you have some other sort of spell synergy going on. I don't foresee this being main decked very often unless it's just like strictly an Lee Sin archetype. Just giving something Challenger has not seen very much play. Let's see, the Laurent, not the Protege, but the other guy. We can go ahead and pull it up here really quick. I think it's the Duelist, the Laurent Duelist, which is 3 mana 4/2, obviously bad stat line like we talked about, but gives something Challenger. Even with the buff, it's not really seeing play. So let's see if this works. Give Challenger? No. Okay. Let's see. But I just wanted to pull this up because of On Guard. We already have a 3 mana burst spell that gives everything Challenger, and this never sees play. And then we have our Laurent Duelist, which also, I mean, it lacks the proper health to dodge what we were talking about, the issue we were talking about earlier with Mystic Shot and everything. But this also gives something Challenger, and it doesn't really see play. Like, units with Challenger obviously see play because they have usually the good ones have really good stat lines, or like some sort of good effect to go on top of that, but just giving something Challenger doesn't seem to be... We're not in a metagame or have not been in a game state where just giving something Challenger is very high value. So I don't foresee the Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike having that much play or like being that valuable for many archetypes. And then we have the Dragon's Rage, which kind of with the theme of these cards seems to be a little bit underwhelming. It's a very powerful effect, but it has the downside of being slow, which means you have to, not only it can be responded to, which with some sort of interaction, but also it passes over initiative to your opponent. So unless you're like doing some sort of fancy ending the game type combo with this, you're most likely in a pretty weak position, because even if you're recalling an ally, you're passing over initiative unless it's the end of their turn, and you're doing recalling it at the end of their turn when they can't replay the creature. They're most likely just replaying something or redeveloping into whatever you did here. So it's pretty expensive for what you're accomplishing here. Like maybe you're getting some Nexus damage in, but your turn's pretty much over once you play this. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't have high hopes for this card being like main decked in a lot of different archetypes. I'm sure it could see play. There's obvious synergy with like a leveled up Vi if you somehow get a level up Vi, or even just Vi in general if there's some sort of PNZ Ionia archetype where because you want Vi to strike multiple times. So if you're going for like a turbo level up Vi, if you get the strikes off and level her up, and if you get the Nexus strike, you get an additional 5 on top of that with her leveled up form. That could be a really powerful combo, which is funny because like, is this with Vi potentially a better combo than this with Lee Sin? Wouldn't that be funny? Who knows? Yeah, we'll just have to see. But I don't foresee that card being very powerful. And then again, this is probably mana cheating seems super. I guess the obvious synergy here would be like Draven. But even then, what hand state is going to be like the nuts for this card, and which archetype do you want this to take up 3 slots in a deck? Like you definitely don't want this in a Draven aggro archetype because there are 1-drops that do the same amount of stuff just for this. And if you're holding a 3/2 to potentially get value after you drop a 3-drop, that being Draven to use it with the free axes, then this just is just clunking up your hand potentially. So I'm sure there will be times if people play this where like you get 2 or 3 of them and you get the nutty 2 or 3 for free. But then if your opponent is able to stabilize in that position, like if it's a PNZ archetype or something, or like a control archetype, then they're able to stabilize through this, then you just drop 2 or 3 cards from your hand and this was all you got from it potentially. I mean, you might be able to get out there like grasps and stuff for later, but or whatever removal tools they would use to like equalize, but I just don't see this being that amazing. This like with the caveat of if there's more synergy for this in the future where like cheap spells, or we're in a meta where like even in the future with some sort of expanded Legends of Runeterra where like I'm sure this will be nutty in some sort of archetype where you're playing like ridiculously cheap spells for whatever reason, and you just get 3/2s, and the 3/2s do other nutty stuff, most likely. I think that's the only condition in which this card is like crazy, where the 3/2s somehow generate additional value after they've been summoned for free. Because it's like you're trading off a bunch of clunkiness potentially in your hand and clunkiness in your deck for the potential of getting a 0 mana 3/2 on board. Yeah, it's kind of underwhelming currently in the game, but in the future it could pay off. And then obviously we have our boy Lee Sin here. When you cast a spell, give me Challenger. Challenger's a great effect, and there's obvious synergy with his like cheap spells, Retreat Return, Sonic and Resonating Strike. So you probably could pretty easily get both of these effects. And so yeah, if you get Lee Sin to stick on a board at 6 mana and it dodges hard removal, you're going to... Yeah, the interesting thing here, too, is if you bank enough spell mana, your opponent can't even really respond with a Thermo. Because if they Thermo Beam, you just play your Retreat Return, or you play your... whatever cheap burst spells you want. If you're playing with like PNZ, you do your Rummage stuff. So it actually removes the Thermo, which is one of the most consistent ways to remove this. So you'd really be looking at a Vengeance. So that is actually pretty interesting. So really the only hard removal that could immediately remove this from the board would be a Vengeance, but that means that if you already had something on the board, that means your opponent's most likely just completely tapped out and you get some free damage in. So that's pretty interesting, actually. Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. So... yeah, or like a Ruination, obviously. But if you have the banked spell mana, like you play this on turn 7, and you have potential deny mana up, that means that Lee Sin is just there. He's just there. He's just sticking around, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if you play this on turn 7, it's actually pretty annoying. It's actually super annoying. And if it's leveled up, it's even more annoying. So that's actually a pretty big boon for this card, I feel like. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, Lee Sin seems like it's going to be a pretty sticky for playing PNZ, maybe like Rummage and stuff like that. So I don't know if the turbo like level up with early spells, or like obviously PNZ would have like Mystic Shot and stuff like that too, and get excited, so you could like really control the board and wait for like a Lee Sin to come down if you have like crazy deny stuff. So yeah, you kind of play this like Ezreal almost, where you're like controlling the board with like spells, maybe some creatures, and then you're dropping him down, and Lee Sin kind of like protects himself completely if you play him on turn 7. Unlike Ezreal, which is, you know, he can get around it if he's leveled up with all of his like crazy burst potential spells, like just bursting through a fast response. But Lee Sin, if you have the deny mana up, then he's sticking on the board regardless, pretty much, which is pretty cool. And then we haven't even talked about, obviously he Dragon Rages his enemies that he's challenged when he's leveled up. So I think Dragon Rage as a card is like probably too slow, but Dragon Rage on Lee Sin as an effect is like ridiculous, because your open attacks are insane. Yeah, your open attacks are like really crazy if they have some big creature, because then they have to commit all their mana to either redeveloping a big creature that you've already recalled, and he doesn't take damage from them, because he strikes them and then recalls them and strikes the Nexus, so they're gone before he even is able to interact, before the creature he's challenging is able to interact with him in combat. And then they have to, like I said, pay a bunch of mana to redevelop, or they have to try and like, you know, they have to try to remove potentially or interact with the Lee Sin. So it's like a weird trade-off. Like Lee Sin with like a rally effect would be pretty crazy. They wouldn't be able to do anything. So yeah, I don't think any of like Lee Sin's supporting cast is like particularly strong outside of a Lee Sin archetype. But Lee Sin is like, if you get him going, is like a super insane win condition combo card. So we'll have to wait and see if his supporting cast, so his early games, you're waiting until turn 7 to play him completely safely if you have deny in hand, and then you have, so his supporting like early game has to be strong enough to get him to that point where he's playing enough spells potentially and doing all this other stuff. So and then obviously if you have to play a deny with him, you're down a deny, and then he has to stick around from there. So yeah, that's kind of just like my gut reaction to these cards. I think Lee Sin actually has, like, with the Challenger and Barrier stuff and all of his burst double spell stuff, I think he has really good sticking potential, and he's going to be very hard to remove late. Very hard to remove. But that means obviously people can play around that idea and just kind of like pick off everything earlier. They can be a little more liberal, I think, with like what they're trying to do in the early game, and just try and punish you early, or something along those lines. And if they go super wide, obviously this is like super weak to like super wide ideas. So yeah, that's kind of like my gut reaction to like these cards that have been released. I hope you got something out of them. Yeah, we'll kind of have to wait and see. Obviously, I've said it in previous videos, we'll have to wait and see what other cards we're going to get with these new sets, and then we'll do more of an official reveal, maybe like what you should craft going into launch, something along those lines. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you guys today. I hope you got something out of the video, you liked what you saw. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, the obvious YouTuber-y type stuff. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. I hope you have a good rest of your day.